Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here because I don't like many times when people come out with these predictions based on these dates. They've been wrong a lot of times. I'm going strictly by instinct, shooting from the hip. A lot of times that works for me. Maybe that's why sometimes I fit in nice with the inner circles of the entrepreneurs. But I never seem to fit in with some standard ho-hum garbage. But 911 2012, that may be a significant date. I know I posted this stuff about the 9/9/2012 countdown clock. I don't know what the hell that means. I know that's the last day of the Paralympics. I don't know what the hell they're doing with that. But you know why I think the 9/11/2012 thing might be legit? And I'm just doing it this way. Not coming from it from a Christian angle. I'm coming from it from my own instincts. So bear with me on this because I'm not coming at it from an angle that most people would. Yeah, I know about the George Bush speech, September 11th, 9/11, 1990, referencing the New World Order. Then 11 years later, they had on 9/11, 2001, the Trade Centers got attacked in Building 7, both on a Tuesday. I consider that significant because I'll tell you the truth, if I was to make war, I want to do it in the days that would work for best favor for me, that would please the gods. That's exactly how I think. That's why maybe I'm a little bit in tune with them. I'm not into the devil stuff, but I'm into, you know, maybe I'm a little superstitious. But here we got again. And now in 2007, there was a 911 that fell on a Tuesday. And you know, in 2007, lo and behold, there was a very close call with going to war with Iran. There really was. Except the plan got exposed and all this type of stuff they're supposed to do. Supposedly, false flag attacks and all this garbage. Now, I'm going to make a case, a different case, why the regime in Iran is actually bad. And I made this case a little bit before, but I don't think a lot of people heard it. And it's something a little bit more I'm familiar with, too, that a lot of people aren't familiar with. That goes along, it goes along with religious persecution, intolerance. You know, people in the United States, you know, they don't want to hear this stuff because, but you know, at the same point in time, you know, I don't like Romney and I don't like Obama. I don't like either one of those guys. But damn sure for anything, I would not want an Ayatollah running this country. I'll guarantee you that. I wouldn't want one of those religious clerics telling me what to do. You want to see a real revolution? That would be a revolution. You ain't kidding. I'd be going after them. I wouldn't be defending myself. I'd be on the offensive against those wacko kooks if they ever try to put the hammer down on me. And their religion actually is about pushing their ways on everybody else. There is no tolerance. I'm going to get into that. I want to try to make this quick, but I want to get down to some of the points why I think 9/11 2012 is legit. Like it's coming from a non-religious person. I'm talking like, if I was gonna be pulling this stuff off, I want the gods on my side. So maybe they're consulting the augurs right now, for all I know. But these, by the way, these three women are from the Israeli Defense Force. Quite a difference, even in the United States, where you know all women are required to be in the army. They're pretty much all of them. All of them have to serve at least a year, and it's a requirement. There's no prima donnas, you know. So I mean, you got three women here that look good. They could be models. They're in uniform, defending their country. Now I want to get into some of the things why I think it's going to happen. For one, Tuesday, and you know I'm into this stuff big time too. The name Tuesday is based on Latin Dies Martis, Day of Mars, the Roman god of war. Now, I want to point out, when you people think of war, there's two different kinds of wars. There's wars of righteousness, and there's wars that are just total chaos. When they always refer to the god of war, Mars, it was never about something bad. It was about Roman virtue. It wasn't about just creating chaos, just creating destruction. It was about instilling peace, basically, justice, those type of things. People in the West don't appreciate it because they live in a area that is not subjected to the real thinkings of the way things are in Iran and what that regime is about. You just don't believe it. I know people are just never going to believe it in a million years till they get hit over the head with it. It's like communism on steroids or something like that. That's basically what the hell it is. Maybe they're anti-communism, but it's almost like the Nazis competing with the communists, you know? They're both bad news. They're both a couple of gangs throwing down rules, and they will, if they have the capability, the West would be toast. So I always consider this a totally just war. As far as Mars, if you want to get a little bit more technical about it, Mars represents a military power as a way to secure peace and was the father of the Roman people. Now, I know this is going back to some mythology. Mars basically has different, in Greek it's a little bit different, but basically Mars was the father of Romulus and Remus, the two twins that founded Rome. They were abandoned, and then they were found by a wolf, a female wolf that raised them, up to a certain point until they were refound again. Eventually, they founded Rome. But in other words, Mars being a something that is a war machine or whatever you want to call it, a military power, but it's there to produce a secure peace and justice. It's not there just as basically a destructive and destabilizing force. It's something totally different. There are such things as just wars, and this would be one of them. I know these Jewish people love to hear this probably because they have their reasons for it, but I'm just talking about it from even leaving Israel out of the equation. If you really think about what would happen if that whole area became nuclear and there was a competition between opposing factions in the world of Islam, it would just go up in flames at one point in time. So you can argue with me or whatever, fine, but I'm just stating my opinion on this. But I think it's very legit that 9/11 2012, 11 years after 9/11 2001, and also falling on a Tuesday, which represents the day of Mars, the Roman god of war. That would be the time to do it. I'd have a superstition about this myself. I'd undoubtedly do it myself. And I would want all the forces of nature to be on my side, because I do think it's a just war. Now, I want to get into a couple reasons what you probably don't know about Iran and basically the attitude. A lot of people in the United States have this attitude, tolerance. Maybe they're not very religious too deeply. Some people are, but basically everybody tolerates each other's beliefs. That's the whole game in the United States. Basically, you have freedom of religion, right? In the Baha'i faith, this was actually something that came about in 19th century Persia, Iran. Now, I'm more familiar with this because I'll mention the name, the Rabbani Trust from Dr. Rabbani, who had to flee Iran. I'm a little more attuned in with this, but this is really how I know about this. I know it's true. They did have to flee Iran. What their beliefs were, and a lot of people in the United States might think this too, whether they're Christian or whatever they are, they could be Islam or whatever, just having an American attitude of being very tolerant, as the Romans were. The Romans were very tolerant people, believe it or not. The messengers for mankind, the divine messengers, included all. In other words, they included Abraham, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and others, and new ones too, which has specific to the Baha'i faith. Basically, they're working for the gradual establishment of peace, justice, and unity on a global scale. Now, the reason they're persecuted is because that is totally, either you're going to accept Muhammad in the doctrine of Islam, or you're an infidel. So that's exactly the type of attitude you have. In other words, 99% of the way Americans think, being very tolerant of other people's beliefs and things like that, would not hold water in Iran. You would probably be, you would be subjected to the Nazi communist um, religious clerics' judgments and whatever they pass down upon you. That's what would happen. And it is only a matter of economic and military strength of the United States. In other words, if Iran had the military of the United States, the infidels in the United States would either be deceased, or they'd be converted, or they'd be enslaved, one or the other. Do not fool yourself about this. I am not a naive person. I know what the deal is, and I understand that some people get tired of hearing about Israel sometimes. I know that your average American gets tired of hearing about Israel. But let's just leave Israel out of the equation sometimes, and let's look at it from an objective standpoint. Imagine, it's like you got a bully, and they are a bully because they're freaking subjecting all their people to these things. As a matter of fact, is Baha'i faith, which is the only thing that's different really, what they hate about it, and they were very much persecuted all the time. What they really hate about it in Iran is the fact that it's tolerant. It's the kind of attitude an American has. But the only place it's welcome in that area of the world is in Israel. The seat of Universal House of Justice governing the body of Baha'is is in Haifa, Israel. So Israel has enough tolerance. And this is not a Jewish faith. It's a faith that encompasses all religions. It's not a Jewish specific faith. It does encompass Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Buddha, Confucian, everything. It's a lot of it probably has a great appeal to the average American if they knew about it, because it's a very benign, loving religion, and it's something that's totally not tolerated in Iran. So this is one reason I am actually for this war, and I do know that Iranians are not kidding around with electricity. They're getting nuclear weapons for a reason, and say they can't use them for the next few years, or Israel that's not my point. If they have the weapons, then other factions of Islam that are against, the Sunnis and the Shiites are all going to have weapons, and they're basically vowed to kill each other. So you're definitely going to have the Middle East go up in flames at one point in time if this is not stopped. And I just want to point out again, when I'm talking Mars, Mars is the god of war. It's basically a military power as a way to secure peace. It's not considered a destructive and destabilizing force. There's a mission involved here. And the mission is to take out the regime of Iran. It's a just mission. It's a just mission. So, just want to point out, I think this 9/11/2012 date, which happens to fall on Tuesday, which is 11 years after the 9/11/2001 bombing of the World Trade Center, which was 11 years after the 9/11/1990 George Bush New World Order speech, is probably a significant date. I don't want to get all emotional about it. I'm not emotional about it. I could be wrong about this. But I got a pretty decent hunch on this one. Now, why am I putting this out here? One of those things I was talking about is, if you look at the silver rally, the gold rally, the everything rally because of QE coming up, or suspicions of QE, this would also be if this happens, we're going to see an upset in the markets for a real quick downturn, and the rug's going to be pulled out of the people that are speculating. If this does happen, and my senses are correct, this is going to be time for me to move in on leverage, and when I get appropriate gains, I'm going to sell. So that's another reason I'm putting it out here, but that's one of the reasons I think it's important. Otherwise, Well, let me put it this way. I have the attitude probably. I'm going to tell you this, too. I don't think the elite, or whatever the hell you want to call them, are so goddamn all powerful like you people think. Um, they're very aggressive and they constantly move. They're constantly on the go. They're like chameleons. They will change. They will change. They'll adapt to the situation. They got general goals, but nothing is written in concrete, etched in stone. It never is. It's like running a business. You know, it's like, I almost put it this way. Sometimes when I work for these Jewish guys, I almost used like the on their side now, not against them, but I always use like the German Nazi blitzkrieg technique. And I kind of like that technique, but I use it as a way of warfare and business. And I'm not talking with guns, but I'm talking about the blitzkrieg lightning strike was about um, going to the path of least resistance. In other words, if we're making money in a certain area a lot easier, guess what? We're going to hit that area. We're going to hit that area hard. So basically, you got to make a lot of small decisions to get to your accomplished goal, which is to make as much money as possible. So, that's really a lot how the elite think, too. They might have some general goals, but nothing's written in stone. Because if it's written in stone, you're already like cutting yourself off at the knees and you're limiting yourself. So, actually, I take some of that Nazi blitzkrieg stuff and I apply it to business, man. I'll tell you what, it works. It works. And it's like you don't want to think like a rigid German though. But I'm talking about, be quick on your feet. Look for different directions, different angles. Do not be fearful. Go into new uncharted territory. That type of stuff. Actually, I got a great respect for the Jewish businessman, so I always like working with those guys a lot. So, maybe my opinion is a little tainted on this, but I'm not Jewish. Maybe understand that. I'm just thinking clear as a bell, like an average person. And I realize, Israel is not so perfect either, you know. But if I was stuck someplace and I had to pick a country over in the Middle East I had to go live in, it would be Israel. It would be. It wouldn't be Iran. It wouldn't be Iran. Very intolerant. So, anyway, I just want to point this out because this 9/11/2012 date may be significant. Tuesday, the day of Mars. That would be the day I would attack. I got a superstition about this too.